Hi, and welcome to the Psychic Hour, where you can get the answers to your most challenging questions concerning life, love, or the afterlife. Starring Cindi Sansone-Braff, the romance whisperer, a relationship expert with a twist. She talks to the dead to teach you how to live well and love better. Named Best Psychic 6 times by the Long Island Press, she is the author of Grant Me a Higher Love, Why Good People Can't Leave Bad Relationships, and Confessions of a Reluctant Long Island Psychic. Joining her tonight and always is the show's producer and host, Nicole Samadai. Nicole, a talented artist, writer, entrepreneur, and intuitive, shares her unique perspective on the Grant Me a Higher Love philosophy, which is the spiritual foundation of their show. Hi, Nicole, and welcome back to the Psychic Hour. We didn't mean to have so much time between the shows, but unfortunately we had a glitch with one of them, so we're back and we're trying. This is going to be just Nicole and I because we wanted a little intimate summer show, and we're going to be talking about how karmically correct we are or aren't. And recently in my Facebook post, I posted 2 things from Grant Me a Higher Love that deal with karmically correct behavior. So I thought, let's just see how you and I have grown, Nicole, and our listeners who have been following our journey for 17 years. Let's see if they've grown. So the first thing we're going to do is a little quiz. Well, you can't really fail this, okay?
Okay.
You can only fail it if you don't learn the lessons. So you're going to think about your current relationship. And if someone who's listening doesn't have a current relationship, they can think about their last one. If they've never had a romantic relationship, they could think of their relationship with a sibling or a parent or their best friend. But it's just about the way we interact with people. So remember, you really can't fail this. Now, the first question is, when you want to get your point across, do you tend to raise your voice? I knew that one would get you, Nicole, because it got me too. Think past. Maybe let's think from the beginning of when you were doing Grant Me a Higher Love. How were you in that relationship you had then, which was pretty cellmatey and toxic-y, remember?
That was
How could we forget?
horrible. There's lasting scars of that relationship. Now, I think back in the day, I was definitely one to raise my voice. I still slip up and I still raise my voice every now and then. But I try to be a little bit more constructive leading up to that.
Now, our listeners, I wonder what they're thinking. I would say not often do I raise my voice if I'm very tired and I'm stressed for time. And then I have the time pressure. I have a client coming, I have this happening. Then I might raise my voice. But I could honestly say in all the years that I've known TJ, which is like 16 of them, he has never raised his voice, ever.
I love that man.
He has never, ever raised his voice to me. That's amazing, right? Now, the interesting thing about yelling is spirit cannot hear that frequency. So if you're screaming and yelling, not only do people not hear it, by the way, nobody hears a word you say when you're screaming. They don't listen. They don't want to cooperate. But spirit cannot hear it. So it's just a waste. So if you want spirit to hear you, don't start screaming. You could cry. You could plead. You could speak quietly. But don't scream because they don't hear it. Now, the second question, do you wait until things get out of hand before speaking up? And then find yourself crying or having a temper tantrum to try and express all your pent-up feelings?
No.
Now, that's something I did when I was younger. I would just shut up. I call it shut up, and blow up. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners are in the shut up, blow up, okay? And that's why to be karmically correct is to address issues all along. Now, that's very hard for us because we're people pleasers, old souls. We want everybody to like us. So they're not going to like us when they call them on their behaviors. So oftentimes we just keep denying it and pushing it down. So remember, we've been talking about the gift of telepathy that came in 2024. Everybody's very telepathic. We can use that now. I think God gave us this great gift because we are people pleasers and we don't speak up enough. So if something's bothering you, you could telepathically tell someone, I wish you wouldn't be doing this, and this is the reason why. And they're going to think it's their own thought, and they might just hear you. So we can use a little telepathy. And what goes along with that telepathy is the energy that is very strong, and it gives everyone the look. The look is knock it off. Okay. So we're going to work a little more on speaking up all along and not really keeping everything in all the time, because that's something people do mostly when they're younger. I think we learn as we get older that doesn't work. But I'm wondering how many people listening to the show are going to think, oh, that's what I do. So we're going to work on that because it's not karmically
Well, some
correct.
people do it, and I don't think that they're even aware that they do it.
No.
You know, like, because that's like, I used to be very, very reactive that way. And, you know, I would just take it until I exploded. I was
Me
like,
too.
I always like referred to myself as being like a pressure cooker, you know, like, like, if you don't let out some of the steam, like, I'm gonna blow up type of
And we
thing.
do.
Now I think I'm a little bit better with it. You know, like
Right.
now when I feel myself getting that pent up aggression, I kind of like, you know what? Like I kind of warn people. I say, listen, you're kind of poking the bear right now. Maybe we should, you know,
Step
redirect, or
back.
you know what? I really don't like it when you do this. Like sometimes I'll try to be funny about it. Like I said something to Lisa the other day because she was just aggravating my intestines, and you know, like I like it was with her, like something about her phone or whatever. Like she was once again on the damn phone, and like she's been terrible lately, absolutely awful with the phone. So I asked her once and I asked her twice, and I said, you know, one of these days maybe we could have a conversation without your phone in your hand and things like that. You know, like so I take like little jabs like that, and then finally like I just had it the other day, like because I had said it all day long. I had asked her, can you put your phone down? You know, maybe we could put this over here. Like, can we have a conversation without you looking at your phone? You know, we're watching a movie. Why do you have to have the phone? Why are you scrolling on Facebook while we're watching a movie? You know, and then finally I said, can I see your phone? And she handed it to me, and I threw it across the room. I said, there you go. Now we're good.
Now, it's interesting because the question I'm going to ask next relates to that, but you're going to laugh.
Okay.
Yesterday, Spirit told me that we're going to call this cell FOMO, fear of missing out.
I
Cell
love it.
FOMO. Okay. Do you have cell FOMO? The fear if you put that down, you're going to miss something. So don't you think that's a great word? Cell FOMO.
I love that word.
Okay.
I love that word.
So that is, and it's funny because I was going to post a little meme or something on Facebook, but I didn't get to it. But Spirit said you have to start using that term, and you have to think, what are you afraid you're going to miss out on? Because that's what it really is. We're afraid we're going to miss out on something.
Yeah.
So let's all work on our self FOMO. But you're going to laugh because the next question, you're telepathic, is do you only half listen when this person talks to you? Like you listen, but she's only half listening to you if she's on her phone. Can you see that?
Uh-huh.
Can you see the karmically incorrect? Because if you're looking at your phone and somebody says, yeah, okay, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're only half listening and you're not really there. So what you are really saying is, I'm not feeling you're with me because you're not living in the now, because we're right now together watching a movie, but you're not with me. You're with Facebook or whatever going on there. We have to put the phone down and listen. Okay. That's why I found when you said that, I just said, you can't imagine how that fit right in
Yeah.
with the next thing. Now, this is one that I think causes a lot of divorces, by the way. Number
Cell
4.
phones?
This
Oh,
number
okay.
4. Do you discount a lot of the things your significant other has to say?
No.
Now, I don't do that and you don't do that, but boy, I remember.
A lot of people do that. I know they do that. Like sometimes I
Oh, yeah.
see like my friends do that with their
Oh, no.
spouses, and it's just kind of like, I wouldn't do that. Like, it seems minuscule to you, but it's
Not
not
to them.
minuscule to them,
And what
you
happens is
know?
you feel like you're drowning. Okay, because if
Mm-hmm.
you're saying something to someone, look, I'm really overworked, having been a working mother and a wife and having a house. And if I would say, look, I'm really overwhelmed, I need help here. And have someone say, you're just being lazy, or you're just, oh,
Yeah.
really? You have it so hard. Now, those kinds of things, we have to work really hard. And I think we do this more when we're younger. As you get older, you become more aware of things. But if you're a person who routinely discounts what your mate's saying, unless you want a divorce, you better not keep on doing that. Because one day the person just says, 10 years of this or 20 years of you discounting everything that I have to say will add up to they're walking out the door. So if you don't care about your relationship, do that, discount. But if you care about it, listen and go higher, because 3D energy is ego. And then ego says, oh, you're being a baby or you're being spoiled. 4D reality that we talk about, love-based reality, would say, what can I do to help you? 5D might say it funny, like you sometimes try to do. Or ask spirit, what does this person need? So let's be a little more at work situations, with children, with your friends. Listen to what they're saying.
One thing that actually helped me out with that concept is that,
Right.
I was I mean, I don't want to say that I could be dismissive, but like
That's a
I
good
have a
word.
different I have a different way of rationalizing things than Lisa does. Like my brain just goes to a different place when I get overwhelmed versus when she gets overwhelmed. And sometimes it seemed kind of ridiculous to me that it's this is like the hill that you want to die on, like really? But you just have to kind of like just pause when you're in that moment when you want to say, okay, like you're being ridiculous right now. You just kind of have to pause and you have to just say to yourself, my partner is asking me to love them this way.
Right.
So why are they asking me to love them like this? Like Lisa will do that shit like all the time to me. Like when she's overwhelmed, like she'll sit on the couch, the dishes will be piled up. She'll know that I have to do the dishwasher, and she'll say, "How can I help you?" And I'll look at the dishes and I'll be like, "Are you allergic to the sink?" you know. But then she'll like change it and she'll ask me, she'll ask me to go and get her something, or she'll just shift in a certain way. And I'm like, okay, she wants me to take care of her. So she's trying to do the nice thing by asking me if she could do anything for me, but really what she's saying is that she wants me to do for her. So I say, okay. And I'm like, you
Right.
need to be loved a certain way right now, and I'm going to love you that way, even though, I don't understand why. I'm just going to do
Right.
it.
And that's recognizing everybody has a different way of looking at the world.
Yeah,
Now, this is an interesting one. Do you keep a great deal of what you're thinking and feeling inside? Now, I
sometimes.
think I do
Depends
that
what
a
it is.
lot. I mean, TJ will sometimes say to me, does anyone really know you? Because
Mm,
there's so much that goes on. And part of it is because there's a part of all of us that can be negative, or I will think those thoughts, but I try very hard not to say them or act upon them. So sometimes if I'm going through a moment of feeling kind of down or upset about the world or some situation, I may not be saying it because I don't want those words out there. Do you know what I mean? It's not that I'm
hmm
trying to hide something. I'm just not trying to put that energy about what I'm feeling at that moment out there. So I'm not trying to hide something. I'm just thinking, do we need to have that aired? Okay. And other
Yeah.
times I want to just deal with it by myself.
hmm
And
And there's nothing wrong with that.
no. And again, this question is more in a relationship. If you're not being yourself, if you find you're with someone who doesn't like your spirituality, and then you really can't share any of that. I have a lot of clients that lie to their husbands or wives or spouses that they're going to a psychic. They can't tell them. Their mate doesn't believe in it. They think it's the devil, or they think it's a scam or whatever.
Jeez.
So they
A little
can't
excessive.
share something that might have been very profound for them if they heard a message from their deceased mother or something that helped heal them, they can't share that. And that's when we have to examine our relationships. It's one thing to be keeping your inner angst to yourself because maybe you have to deal with that. It's another thing if you're keeping who you really are. You're not sharing that. That's a whole different ball game. That's very karmically incorrect because you have to be yourself, So think about any of our
100%.
listeners. If you're really lying a lot to your partner and maybe lies of omission because they're not going to like what you're saying, you have to examine that relationship. You have to examine if you can't be yourself, then that's not going to work.
That's a huge problem.
You can only live a lie so long and pretend not to be who you are. I tell people before you throw the relationship under the bus, why don't you try being yourself?
Yeah.
If the person doesn't like it, then you got your answer. But they may like
Pretty
you
much.
if you show them who you are. Give them the opportunity to either like you, who you are, or not like you before you just walk away because you haven't been yourself. Well, maybe that person has no clue you haven't been yourself also. So speaking up is important. Now, this is an interesting question. Are you afraid to tell this person what you need or want? A lot of people are afraid to tell their mates what they want. I'm not with TJ, and that's why we're still together, and that's why you're still with Lisa. But in past relationships, I remember being afraid to ask. Like I knew that the person wasn't going to like what I'm saying or what I need.
But that's also an indicator if you're that you're with the right person, though.
Right.
Because same thing. What's that?
I'm laughing because you're right. It's just if you can't say what you need or
being
want
with the right person, because even like you just said, like hiding things from your partner. Like with the whole like psychic thing and everything. I mean, if you're not able to just agree to disagree, if you're not able to have different perspectives in a relationship and not completely conform to what the other person wants and needs, like a lot of people confuse being in a good relationship with having this constant, camaraderie, this constant, symbiosis. And relationships are not like that. You're allowed to be different than your partner. That's okay.
Right.
You're allowed to have different beliefs than your partner. The idea is that when in your differences, can you still respect one another?
Exactly.
And can you still be open and honest? So like you use this before. You said some people think that psychics are the devil. Well, you know what? If it is explained to that person that, okay, hey, listen, you know what? You would go to, let's say, a priest to get a different perspective when something is ailing you. All I'm doing is going to someone who shares a degree of spirituality that I can't get from church, and I'm getting a different perspective. And it's functional in a very similar way for me, and can you agree to disagree, with my methods here, because I'm still the same person that you're in love with. I'm still the same person that we have all these other things with. Just because I'm doing this one thing, it doesn't change that the person that I am, so like you have to be able to have those open and honest conversations.
Right, exactly.
You have to be able to share not only your similarities, but your differences with your partner. And you have to be able to say, listen, this is what I need, and like I said, like sometimes, with me and Lisa, like I try to be funny about certain things, or, like if something's like just like really, really like irritating me, like I'll try to be tactful with it. And then we always know, like when I get to like that threshold where I'm about to start like yelling or raising my voice, and I'll just say, hey, listen, babe, I need you to be a little bit better with something. I'm asking you and I'm telling you A, B, C, and D, and you're not really responding how I want you to respond.
Oh.
So, maybe can you be a little bit better with that?
Exactly.
And, and she takes it as very, very constructive, and she gets better.
Good.
And vice versa.
And that's the whole thing. It's communication. Now, this question, do you continually threaten to leave this person if they don't do what you want? Now, a lot of people do that. They know they don't want to divorce their spouse, but they'll say, I'm going to get a divorce. Like, these are the worst things.
You keep threatening to leave, eventually your partner's going to show you where the door is.
That's right. And it's also going to, all of us have fears of abandonment. Okay. It's a primal fear. It's a collective unconscious fear, and it's a personal fear. So when
Hmm.
people use that to manipulate someone, it's probably might work. It will probably work for 5 years, 1 year, 10 years, 20 years. But finally, the person overcomes their fear of abandonment because of this. And
Hmm.
you might just get what you didn't want.
Yeah.
So threatening to leave is a really big karmically incorrect thing. And if you are going to leave, it's different. We always talk how you have to have, 2 feet in or 2 feet out to fix something. We talk about 1 foot in, 1 foot out with a relationship. That doesn't fix anything. We always advise
Yeah.
first, put your 2 feet in, say what you mean what you say. Don't be mean about it. Talk. If that
Hmm.
doesn't work after 3 months, so you don't fall into depression thinking nothing's ever going to change, then you take 2 feet out. But that's
Yeah.
not a threatening. You take your 2 feet out because sometimes people really need to know if you don't do something that's a change, and sometimes it's a big change. Maybe they're a gambler.
Hmm.
Maybe they're, spending too much or doing something that's putting you in financial ruin or threatening their health because they're abusing drugs or alcohol. But you can't threaten without carrying through because after a while the person doesn't hear it anyway. They'll just
Exactly.
hear, okay, yeah, she said that for the last 20 years.
Hmm.
Now, this is an important question too. Do you,
Well, actually, before you move
sure.
on from there, I think that it's important for our listeners to also recognize that if you are the person that is threatening to leave
Oh,
and
yeah.
you have no intention of doing so, it's a very, very much a boy who cried wolf situation.
Oh, yeah.
You don't ever, your partner is not going to ever know when to take you seriously. And what can eventually happen is that you will then start to create in your brain this animosity
Absolutely.
about not being taken serious. Well, you're idly threatening
I
something and
know.
you're not following through.
Oh,
So the reason why you're not being taken seriously is on you.
absolutely.
It's on you. You're letting that person know by not following through. You're letting your partner, your friend, whoever you're in that relationship with, you're letting them know that you don't intend to have any follow through. So you can't expect them after years and years of no follow through to all of a sudden now through osmosis realize that, oh, this time you mean it. So as much as it's important to hold your partner accountable, you also have to hold yourself accountable with certain things, and you have to hold yourself accountable with how you choose to communicate.
Absolutely.
Because it's not always on the other person to decipher and to figure it out. This
No,
is not, like cryptology here. It shouldn't be that difficult.
no. Now, this is an interesting question also. Do you practice deep denial when it comes to your own healing issues? For instance, if someone abuses drugs or alcohol but refuses to go to rehab or see a therapist or attend a 12-step program, I think you and I have learned to do the healing and be
Yeah.
willing to do it. But a lot of people really aren't. And that's what, as a psychic, the overwhelming majority of people come here for some sort of relationship guidance, whether it's with their children, with their, spouse, with their mother, father. It's really hard when a good person and good to a fault people are very loyal people and they're loyal to a fault. It's
Yeah.
hard for them to walk away from people and they tend to enable them because if someone doesn't go to a 12-step program, they don't do it, you're not helping them by enabling them and acting like it's okay. So, if you know you need to do something, if you know you're spending too much, and that's a real problem in America, and gambling's a real problem, sports gambling among
Hmm.
the younger generations,
Oh, it's so easy now too.
it's a lot of my clients are complaining about spouses that are sports gamblers. Okay,
Hmm.
if you really know and that it's out of control, you have to do something about that because that's
Yeah.
fiscal infidelity. It's cheating with money. You could cheat with a person, but if you're cheating with money, that's going to ruin your relationship just as well as you cheated with another person. So we're all have to admit now with AA, the wonder of that program is you have to say, I'm an alcoholic. I mean, We have to acknowledge I'm a rageaholic and I need help, or I'm a spendaholic. Whatever it is you're doing, acknowledge it and seek help, because otherwise, again, it's a question of time. Maybe people have put up with it for 20 years. But what COVID proved in locking people in a foxhole for 2.5 years, good people walked out of bad relationships in record times. People that were married 40 years that probably never would have left. It's finally in humanity, we've come to enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think your partner is going to stay forever and tolerate this, they may not. But also, if your addiction or your problem is big enough, you're going to kill that person that you're living with. They're going to stuff it down, get angry, get cancer, blow their brains out with a stroke. You're going to kill them. If they can't walk away from you, they are going to die from this. So if you love that person and you know you have issues, work on it, okay? Because that's all Spirit's asking. Recognize you have a problem and work on it, because it's karmically incorrect to say, well, that's the way I am and I'm going to be this way forever. And you have to tolerate and you have to like it. Okay, this is me. This is me.
Yep.
This is who I am. No, it's who.
A leopard doesn't change its spots.
Well,
That's what my mother says.
I was like this when you married me. Maybe you were the prince or princess that became the beast. Maybe the person was young and unaware that this was a big problem.
Or maybe you weren't that way when you got married, and the gradual change was so subtle that not even you recognized it.
Exactly. So it's recognizing.
So I think that was one of the benefits, I think, of COVID, and there were very little benefits. Obviously, economically and things like that. But I think that in terms of relationships,
it was
COVID
helpful.
was very, and in terms of self-care, COVID was very, very eye-opening to a lot of people. But I think that whenever you think of a spouse, Lisa, and we use this term, my ride or die, like that's the person that you just go through, like that's your person. And I think that a lot of people think that they were with their ride or die, like, oh yeah, you know what, he doesn't show up for this, or she doesn't show up for this. But if I really needed them, they would be there, type of thing. And I think that COVID showed us that the people that we thought would be there really weren't there. No, they weren't really that present. And some people may have come out of the woodwork that you thought would never be there. They wound up probably, rising to the occasion, and they were there and they were more present than you thought they would be. So
well, that was
I think
also
it gave us a very good ability to examine our relationships and kind of examine like those soul contracts and, to see like who really is in your circle.
And that's what we found also with our past radio show.
Oh, yeah.
We had a lot of loyal people listened week after week. We were sort of a lifeline, telling them when it was bad, COVID, how much my clients were telling me it's bad. And we talked about a lot of things and connected. So it gave us a community that...
We connected at a time that nobody was connecting.
And it felt good. And it was like a little party, a little get together. So that was an interesting time. Now,
and I can tell you, Cindy, that a number of people have reached out to me that with this new format, since we're only doing one show, one guest, and we're not live with our listeners anymore, a lot of people miss that format. And it's cute because they're like, I feel like I had a standing call with my friends, and now I don't have that standing call anymore. And I know exactly what they mean, because I said that to you the other day, that like I miss talking to you. Like we used to have a standing conversation every week. Like, and now it's like, hey, how you doing? Hey, looking good,
But what
let's
it
get a date on the calendar.
I get it too. I am on my messages all week long. I missed the show. I miss you.
I know.
We get it too. But again, that was a technology that doesn't exist anymore. So again, sometimes...
And you got to say, and I got to say to myself that, I think at a certain point, it is a technology that doesn't exist for a reason. Although it's wonderful to have that connection and that ongoing touch point, I think that this is giving us an opportunity to not just cater to everybody that's there, but this is an opportunity for us to dive into things that are a little bit more meaningful and to take a more mindful examination of things so that we can put forth, a larger message than we were on that weekly basis.
And that's why this show, I think, is interesting, because we're asking people to think. Like, as if you're on the show with us. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this is a question that might be interesting for us to answer. Do you find
Oh boy.
yourself nagging or screaming at this person in a vain effort to get them to change? Because people,
No.
some people aren't going to change. There are people that are capable of changing, but we
And there are
talk
people
about
that are unfixable.
the manipulative, judgmental, not
Yep.
accountable people who often have addictions, with or without addictions. Those traits in
Mm-hmm.
someone over the age of 25. If you're dealing with a mate who manipulates, lies, tells half truths,
Mm-hmm.
forgets to tell you something, pushes your guilt buttons,
Yeah.
judges everything you say and everybody else says, and if you try to call them on their behaviors, they're judging you. If they're not
Yeah.
accountable, why they're getting fired or why something's happening, why they're in debt, you're not going to fix that person. And again, we talked about
Nope.
screaming and yelling, nobody hears it.
You're
And
yelling into the wind.
so that's something that if you really are reduced, whether even it's with children, teenagers can really push their parents' buttons.
Oh,
The calmest
especially
person
today.
can actually end up being a lunatic with an American teenager because they don't listen and people are afraid they're not going to live to tell. We have to figure out better ways of dealing, and that's the gift of telepathy. Tell people this is not acceptable. Mind to mind, more energy that says you're pushing too far, this is not acceptable. But the screaming and the yelling, first of all, that's really when we feel out of control. The times I've lost it like that at a person is because I've tried everything else. I've exhausted everything else. And
Yep.
I could see the train wreck that's going to happen because of that behavior. And I
Yeah.
don't want to be the one cleaning up that train wreck because I don't have the energy to do it and it's not my mess to clean up. So a lot of times, if you're the person people are screaming at, then maybe you better say, don't start saying, well, it's because she's crazy. She's a bitch. She's a bitch. She's like her mother, a bitch. Stop saying that. You knew that
Yeah.
person. Were they always like that? Do they yell at everyone else? How come it's just you this person's losing their mind at? Then examine your behaviors. If you're the kind of person that's pushing someone to do that, then you have to realize they're not happy either. And what makes a good person walk out of a bad relationship more than anything is they don't like the person they've become. You
Yeah.
might deserve that frying pan in your head, but a good person doesn't want to be beating you with a frying pan and they don't want to be screaming. So if you're reducing someone to behave that way, they will leave eventually because they can't stand the person that they've become. So these are things, toxic relationships, cellmate relationships that bring out the worst in people.
Mm-hmm.
They're across the board. They can be with siblings, they could be with lovers, they could be with spouses, they could be with parent, child, they could be in work environments. We have to really own what we're doing, okay? And examine our own hearts. We have to look. And especially, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
say this for American teenagers and American kids because it's like negotiating with terrorists with American kids at this point.
It
It's like
really
a
is.
hostage
Teenagers the
situation,
worst.
okay? And you're making your parents crazy and you're making them lose their minds. But
Mm-hmm.
these are not people that lose their minds with everybody. So if your mom's usually a nice person or your dad's usually a pretty calm, cool guy, but now with you, he's losing his entire mind.
Yeah.
It's because they're older and they're wiser and they're seeing this behavior's not going to end right. It's going to land in jail, a courtroom, a morgue, an emergency room. And you're my child and I can't see this happening and I can't watch this. So be aware. Some people are negative empaths, bad empaths, evil empaths.
Oh yeah.
They
They
like to
channel that
make you
shit.
crazy too, by the way. And if you're dealing with one of those people who wants to make you crazy, who wants to make you scream, who wants to make you upset,
They
then
will
you
succeed.
have to say, enough is enough. This
Mm-hmm.
is draining my energy. It's sucking me dry. And I can't stay in this relationship anymore. Because,
Yep.
again, we as human beings are evolving, and spirit wants us to evolve and move in the speed of light from now on. Year of energy 2025. Is it a good vibe? Is it a bad vibe? Someone's a
Yep.
bad vibe. Stop psychoanalyzing it. Stop trying to figure it out. Move away from it if
Yeah.
all your best efforts are not working, and particularly if it's reducing you to behave in karmically incorrect manners. You have to leave. Okay? It's important.
Well, I think that also that kind of goes hand in hand too with um, sometimes you just need to change your perspective. You're sitting there and you're battling with somebody and you're doing the same things over and over again. They're doing the same things over and over again. They're pushing certain buttons, and sometimes you're not even aware that your buttons are getting pushed until you're already at this state where that you don't want to be in. So the way that I explain it to other people is it's kind of like a kaleidoscope, same pieces, different pattern.
Yeah, exactly.
Just you got to shift that perspective because it can't just be you yelling at them yelling at you. Sometimes you need to just move that kaleidoscope and then you see the patterns that emerge. And like I said, it's the same pieces, you're still the same people, but now you're re-seeing it. You're not denying that, there's a problem there, but now you're just seeing that problem or that experience differently.
Exactly.
You're seeing the energy differently. You're seeing the positive. You're just changing that. You're making that tweak.
Now, in a nutshell, this is what it says in Grant Me a Higher Love. We're acting karmically incorrect when we scream at our partners, and we've discussed why.
Mm-hmm.
When we discount what they say, when we don't listen to what they have to say, when we don't say what we mean or mean what we say, okay, without being mean about it, when we keep too much bottled up inside, when we continually threaten to leave when we have no real intentions of doing so, when we refuse to work on the relationship and refuse to do something about healing our own issues. All of these things are pretty simple and pretty basic, but hearing it is important. Now, we have a lot of karmic lessons we're here on earth to learn, by the way. Okay. I mean, tons and tons and tons. And,
So,
we're here to learn compassion. And I think what I have watched you as a person, Nicole, come to be a very
well,
compassionate human being. Okay.
yes, I will
And
agree with you there.
and that's something that we all have to work on, having compassion for other people. It's missing right now in our culture. There's a real
Mm-hmm.
mean undercurrent and an inability to see other people's point of view and have compassion. Let's go back to just being compassionate. One of the hardest lessons is unconditional love. And
Yeah.
99% of the time, we're not loving unconditionally. We love
Nope.
if people do what we want them to do. If you have a being in this world you love unconditionally, and sometimes it could be a cat or a dog, they teach us unconditional love. If you're blessed to have a soulmate relationship with a friend or a parent, someone who you love unconditionally, but there's probably only one or two beings, whether they're human or animal, that we've actually loved completely unconditionally. We strive for it, but it's very, very, very hard. But also with unconditional love, it doesn't mean we tolerate abuse. It doesn't give a person a license to abuse because I love you unconditionally, you could do what you want. No, it means I love you unconditionally, but if you're not healing your issues and you're not behaving in a karmically correct way, then the contract that I have with you is if you can't learn your lessons through love, peace, and joy with me, I'm not going to learn them through suffering with you, and I'm not going to go there. Then you will learn them on your own. Again, unconditional love is a big one for humans. Even if you're going to become an ascended master, a lot of times you only have one lesson to learn in incarnating, and that's unconditional love, giving and receiving. And sadly, often you have to die very young because you can't
Yeah.
live more than 2 or 3 years on this planet and love unconditionally. It's just almost impossible. So it is a massive task to learn, but we can work on that one. We also have to learn the lessons that nobody wants to learn: fortitude, perseverance, patience, letting time do her thing. We're
Yep.
all controlling everything. Part of it is why I don't want to be the psychic 911. And I have told this on our radio show a lot. What you
Yeah.
think you need a reading for today is not what you need, and you're wasting your money. Spirit knows you're going to need it in 4 or 5 weeks or 6 weeks. And they know that that's when I'll be able to book you. So they'll have a little engineered circumstance that makes you contact me. And sometimes you have to learn some patience. You have to learn tomorrow's another day. You have to learn to persevere through some things and to see what happens. So if you keep running to a psychic because you want answers for everything, you're just going to get wrong answers because after a while, Spirit's going to stop speaking. You just have to
Well,
wait.
psychic aside, if you're also the kind of person that keeps running to the same people because they're going to tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear, that is also just as destructive.
Exactly. We're also going to learn that the world is an abundant place. That's a big karmic
Yes.
lesson for people. Okay. There's no shortage of work or money on this planet. Get rid of
Mm-hmm.
that scarcity principle. That's what's permeating right through our culture right now. That there's a
Yeah.
scarcity, that it's dog eat dog, that we have to be greedy and selfish and protect everything that's ours. No, there's no shortage of work. There's no shortage of money. And learning abundance is so important because when we feel that, we go about our job in a different way. We go about it knowing the work comes first, the money will follow. But that's a hard one for a lot of people. They hear all day long, well, the economy, that's why. You can rise above the economy. It doesn't matter what the
Yeah.
economy is doing. I've never not worked in my entire life. It doesn't matter what the economy is doing. There's work.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
You
we,
may not like the kind of work that's
no,
available.
not
Okay, so there's a difference between liking everything and having everything be ideal versus not having anything at all.
right. Exactly.
You know, again, tweak that perspective there because just because it may not be the choice that you want doesn't mean that the choice is lacking.
And get out there. Like if you don't want to wait on tables, but that's what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing right now. You don't know who you could meet while you're doing that. You're picking up some
Mm-hmm.
skills there. You're picking up some good people skills there. Learn what you can there. Make contacts. Get out there in the world. But whatever you're doing, that's also part of our karmic lesson is to do our job. Law of maximum effort, do it well. Sometimes there's a karmic lesson, take your money and run. If it's a kind of job where people are giving you a hard time the whole time, but you can't leave yet because old souls don't quit a job, even if you're being tortured. Those jobs, you do your job, you go home, you forget about it, take your money and run, look for something else. But let's work on getting rid of some of that 3D ego thinking that there's scarcity on this planet, okay? Because that causes war.
Yep.
That causes greed and people stealing from you and thinking they have to steal and they have to be dishonest. That's the
Mm-hmm.
only way you'll get ahead. So let's do a little bit this week to make others feel like the world's an abundant place. Speak those words. Don't go around speaking how there's no work and all this negative thinking because in the law of attraction, if you say there's no work or there's no good jobs for me, the economy's bad, well, the law of attraction will say, well, then the economy's bad. That's what you think.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep giving you those experiences until you say, I have enough with that. I want to believe it's abundant.
Yep.
Now, we also have to learn that we're spiritual beings living in a
Mm-hmm.
temporal body.
Yeah.
Self-care, treating your body like a holy temple, not like a
Oh my
garbage
God,
pail.
you would be so proud of me,
I am
Cindy.
proud of you always, but why now today?
Well, because like I told you, not so much on the last show, but on the show before that, like I've been making like a lot of changes in this and that and everything else, and I kind of reverted backwards a little bit. And I started kind of running myself into the ground and not taking care of myself. And I wound up getting some medical issues as a result. I wound up in the hospital getting a blood transfusion,
Oh,
and it was like it was bad, you know. And then finally I was like, screw this. I'm taking my time and I'm again changing my perspective. And I can't control what other people do. I'm just controlling what I do. And it's funny because I went back to the other show and it's like I'm looking at myself in my camera right now and I've done nothing differently. And I see just how like pallid I was for the last two shows. And it's like now like I've got some color in my
I
face.
know.
I'm going back to your lessons of you have to take care of yourself.
Treating your body like a holy temple, like 3D energy is very aging ego. And
Oh, yeah.
3D energy foods, which we talk about sometimes, junk food, crap food, those
Hmm.
things vibrate at a very low frequency, and we're an energetic being. So if you're abusing alcohol and putting too many drugs in your body, you're going to really run that thing down, and you are going to age in dog years, actually, because the aging process is actually very slow. It's
Hmm.
fast if you're abusing your body, by the way. It's real fast. It's a fine line between health and unhealth for humans, and we need balance, because some of the karmic lessons are temperance. It's not doing things in extreme, but it's
Yep.
self-care, rest, sleep, balancing work and play. And again, think about, how are you treating your body?
Yep.
Because if we go 4D and 5D, there's miraculous healing in 5D, which is spiritual. Heart love is very healing. So let's work on being kind to ourselves, kind to our bodies. Love yourself the way you would love your own child, or the way you love your best friend or your spouse. Think what if they were doing to their body what you're doing. Would you be horrified and say, please stop that because you're killing yourself? Come to the realization that we have to really treat our bodies well, and they
Yeah.
will reward you with pain-free. You won't
Hmm.
have inflammation. It's funny because at my age, all I hear is people my age, everything hurts. Everything hurts. Nothing ever hurts on me.
That's me some
I
days.
nothing. I always feel healthy and good and well.
Yep.
But I work on putting good things in my body, keeping my
Yep.
body flexible. Stretch a little bit. Your bodies
Yeah.
need to be flexible. What happens when people get older? The problem is they're not flexible enough. So
Hmm.
work on
In
stretching.
more ways than one.
Yeah, exactly. So
Flexibility is important in more ways than one.
let's
So, you have to listen to your body, and, when you have fatigue or your pain, or, their tension, you're feeling a little bit tense or anxious, that's your body communicating with you.
act
And if you want to know
absolutely.
how to treat those symptoms, you have to listen to your soul, which means that you need to slow everything down, shut down all the noise, and listen very, very carefully. And your soul will tell you exactly what it needs.
We'll also have
Agreed.
to learn to live in peace, love, and joy and harmony. Like, believe in those things, believe in finding your peace. And that's probably what most people want out of a reading. Even if they have love or joy, they want peace. So that is our birthright. And one of the most important things that we're really here to learn is the difference between external power, which is money and status and physical appearance and the
Yep.
things that can rise and fall and can be taken from us, and authentic power, the power that's generated from what you're talking about, your soul, your heart, our higher consciousness. Those things do not rise and fall. And it's seeking truth. You can believe certain things to be true, but they're not necessarily truth. Truth is eternal. It doesn't change in a culture from culture to culture.
Mhm.
Truth is universal.
That's why it drives me crazy when people say, my truth, my truth. No, it is not your truth. There's the truth.
Right.
That's
And
it.
that's right. And so, really, if you're putting too much energy into superficial things, into
Hmm.
statusy things, into the things that rise and fall, you're going to have a massive midlife crisis, late life crisis, because those things are going to fail you. We try here to go higher, to teach you to find those things that can't be taken from you. And that's when you'll finally feel pretty secure and safe on this planet, by the way, and
Yep.
guided. We also have to learn to be caring people, generous in our own way, and to live in gratitude. Really, that's one of the most important things. Spirit doesn't care if you never pray, but please say thank you.
Yeah.
Take a moment each day to say thank you. And we have to learn that this life is a gift. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it. There's days it feels like it's a curse, but it really is a gift. And that goes back to treating your body with reverence.
I feel a little bit guilty right now because you're telling me to treat my body with reverence as I'm drinking a Diet Dr. Pepper.
Okay, well, we know that's not
I
reverence.
finished my water and I needed some caffeine, so I'm having a Diet Dr. Pepper.
Well, okay, we'll work on that one. Okay. Now, really,
I just wanted to call myself out because you know that once this podcast goes out, there will be somebody saying, oh, yeah, Bonnie is a temple and she's drinking soda. So, yeah, no, I'm calling myself out before anybody else can. Yes, I know I'm having Dr. Pepper.
but basically, we've incarnated to overcome fear and to learn that only love matters. So,
Mm-hmm.
really, we're going to work on being less fear based, much more love based, and
Have a little bit of
a
courage.
little bit of courage. That's a big lesson, to have courage. Okay. The courage to
Mm-hmm.
heal, the courage to speak our truth, the courage to love. It takes a lot of courage to love. So, I think this show is important because Spirit was telling me when I was listening to the audible of Grant My Higher Love, people are not acting karmically correct, Cindy. And please, could you just do that on your next podcast? Maybe remind them what it is to be karmically correct. There's millions of other lessons we're here to learn, but they do boil down to there's two paths in life, love and fear. Are you walking the path of love or are you walking the path of fear? I think this was really important, and I really appreciate you sharing your story, your life, your growth, because that's how other people learn too. And I hope
Yeah.
people listen to this show more than once. I hope they listen to it 2 or 3
Oh, for
times
sure.
and that they do some soul searching. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 or 10 messages that are meant for each specific person.
Mm-hmm.
And after listening, you're just kinder, nicer, warmer, more truthful. Well, then we really did something good. You and I,
Yeah,
Nicole, we raised the vibration on the planet just a
I hope
little
so.
higher.
I
Well,
hope
thank
so.
you for joining me tonight. And we're at the end of our show. We don't want to go on and on and on and on, which we could. And we'll all see you again soon. And thank you for listening or watching the show.
Bye.
Bye.